And
Yeah,
we are
I like your wife
live.
a lot. She's really cool.
No, she's great. So, good evening, everyone, to everyone in the future. Welcome to the people who are coming in as we are talking. Welcome to episode bajillion of CounterFire with Brianna Wu and Connor. I, of course, run the channels that everybody is familiar with, my science fiction, war, lore, nerd stuff. Miss Brianna, let's pretend that somebody doesn't know who you are. What do you want to say to them in introduction?
What? How can someone not know who I am? I'm so important. Let's see. Who am I? I am your lovable gal about town, Democratic operative. Just putting out some spicy messages, doing media and making friends, raising some money. That's my job.
Well, and I would say I am your never Trump Republican operative because, what's funny is actually I can't wait to get into the DNC content because I feel like there's a threat that I don't like that is Trump, and we'll bant before we get into the solid stuff. But this is something that's been bugging me. I don't like Trump. I don't want Trump. I have half a dozen reasons that I can think off the top of the head for why I don't want him as president. But when Democrats talk, I actually do find my values and principles not aligning with them.
Yeah.
And so the more passionately they talk about their principles, some people have been like, Connor, you're just Democrat. And I'm like, the more I listen to people talk, not really.
Yeah.
like not at all.
Yeah, there was I forget. I saw a tweet this week, and I wanted to ask if it was real or not. But
Mhm.
basically, Kamala Harris, recommitting to the assault weapons ban. I was like, oh, that's not going to be good for Democrats. Like, I agree with that,
Well, so here's the thing. I've been doing research on this, and this actually is borderline spiritual for me. It's actually something that kind of like breaks my brain in a way, because if she was backing off the assault weapons ban, boom, I'm checking the top, Harris Waltz immediately. And here's the thing, though, is that people are split on assault weapons ban 53-47 in the country. So I understand it's not as Democrats are not as afraid of it or don't think of it as toxic as I do. I think it's toxic politics. So I get it and I get the numbers, but the thing that kind of brings me back is geopolitics. What's going on in Ukraine? What's going on in Israel? I don't want Trump in charge of that. Therefore, I might still be able to check the box, but just stop talking about guns.
I mean, I feel you. I kind of have a similar gut check with it that, I feel very, very strongly about America's support of Israel. And, just being honest, I think like in the short term, I think Trump is probably going to be a better ally to Israel than Kamala Harris is. When we get into her speech tonight, we can go over it. But she had some comments that gave me a lot of pause. I think if you look at this from a long-term point of view, there's this isolationist tendency in the Republican Party, and I just think I don't know. I don't think I think they want America weaker and alone and not having alliances with people. And I think in the long term, that's going to make both of our countries weaker. So I really understand what you're saying, like about that gut check.
Well, and I don't think that being Israel's ally or friend means giving them a blank check to do whatever they want to do, right?
No,
Sometimes in order to be a good friend, you have to check your friends when they're doing something crazy. And so I think that now I could eat crow on this in a few years, but I think like a Harris Waltz presidency isn't going to totally be like, no, Israel, you can't have any support, no money, no weapons, no logistics, no nothing. I think that they'll probably just be a little bit more sympathetic to the Palestinians, whereas Trump wouldn't be sympathetic at all. He'd just be like, yeah, screw them, bomb them all. Who cares?
Yeah, no, I think that's really apt. I mean, the thing, and I think younger people out there will get this as they get older, is there's no perfect candidate. You're never going to vote for anyone in your lifetime that you agree. Well, one exception. When I voted for me, I agreed with me on everything. But other than that, like it's always, especially at the top of the ticket, it's always going to be compromises. So, the way I try to see it is voting is a choice between two policy outcomes that you want. And try to see it as like a civic duty instead of like designing your own utopia, communist style. That's how I kind of see it.
No, it's actually funny you should say that. That is kind of the kickoff to the drama. So if you have anything else that you want to touch before we get into it,
before we get into your trauma, I want to get into my trauma today.
Your drama first.
So I got added to a group chat with my good old friend Milo Yiannopoulos, who I have not talked to since the Gamergate era, Connor. So
Nice.
he got unbanned because of Elon Musk. And it's just like, oh boy, here we go. Here we go. So he immediately starts with his whole troll routine on me. And yeah, just it's so sad, Connor, because in a decade, I'm not doing the same stuff today I did a decade ago. I run
Mhm.
PACs, I am a political operative, I've raised money, I'm doing different kinds of media. I managed to pivot with my career. But the thing with Milo is he's still stuck where his only skill is being this kind of like controversial 2010 internet troll, which he failed at, right? So he's coming after me. And I'm just like, dude, okay, let's just go through this. Like, of the two of us, comparing what we've done for the last 10 years, I don't have to pretend like I am not into men to get paid. You do. That's hell for you. One of us weighs the same as we did 10 years ago. That's not me. That's not you. One of us got divorced. That's not me. Like, one of us like has a career that's in absolute shambles. Like, the last media hit I saw with him was him rambling like completely incoherently with Destiny. So, bro, you want to come at me? You want to come at me, like Milo? Like, I will compare my life to yours any day of the week. Like, let's do this.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I'm definitely taking home right now, mentally, is the fact that like you might be progressive, but you've
Yeah,
actually had a fairly stable, monogamous, long-term
yeah,
married relationship
that's
with
right.
somebody you love, and a lot of conservatives, a lot of conservative pundits haven't made it all the way.
Look, you're
But
married 16 years together with Frank. That's not
nice.
nothing, right?
No, it's not.
16 years. Like, you've seen Frank and I together. We have a good marriage. Like, that
Yeah.
doesn't happen serendipitously. It takes
It
character.
takes
Yeah.
intention.
Yeah.
And interesting, I'll share a story real quick. So I DM'd Milo just because I'm helping with the Hippy Dippy recruitment. So Hippy Dippy's coming back. Dylan Burns is running the debate panel shows. As a result, we're looking for bigger names to get onto the debate panel scene. I DM'd Milo because even though he's obviously blast from the past and his career isn't what it used to be, he's still a big name, right? And he
Yeah.
can be entertaining. Well, when I DM'd him and I was like, hey, are you still doing debates? He's like, not really. And I was like, do you want to do a debate with Destiny? And he's like, no.
Yeah.
And
Because
then
he
I was
got
like,
BTFO'd last time.
and then I was like, hey, I'm still involved in the space, this, that, the other. And he's like, yeah, well, I don't like anybody, I don't trust anybody. And if I was in your shoes, I would focus on Warhammer content. That's what he said.
Okay, so let's go through this one at a time. So first of
Uh,
all, he got invited to Uncensored America, which I also did. I had a lovely time, and I would encourage anyone out there, go look at my Uncensored America debate against John Doyle about should
mm,
pornography be illegal, and compare my performance to Milo's performance, which was rambling nonsense. Okay.
mm.
Like, second part of this, if you don't trust anyone in this space, that means you're the asshole. I'm sorry, it does. There are tons of great people in this space. You're one of them, Connor. I think both of us have made some amazing friends in this space. So if it is a place where you are unable to make relationships that are good for your career, that's 1,000% on you. It's because you aren't trustworthy. It's because
I think
you can't make that connection.
I think the tricksy thing, though, that this actually leads into the next drama we'll be getting into. But I think the tricksy thing is that there are friendships and alliances that you think are going to be that are natural and naturally occurring, make sense,
Sure.
all that kind of stuff. If you would have asked me, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when I was starting this, and I had my first conversation with Sitch and Adam, if you asked me like, hey, who do you think you're probably never going to have beef with? And it would be Sitch and Adam, I swear to God.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's because, we're both centrists. We're all centrists allegedly. Adam doesn't like that, doesn't like that
I
title
don't think we
anymore.
are. Yeah.
But we like considering multiple perspectives on a single topic. We try to give as many people steelmans in their arguments, et cetera, et cetera. So I would never expect to have a falling out. But the falling out is based off of what I think are sincere differences. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of what we're going to be talking about next.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I'm saying, like, even if one door closes, like, ideally you're making other connections and making other friends. And, like, I mean, I know, Connor, you are beloved through this space. Like, you are. You're seen
But
as
I
someone
couldn't
everyone
hold back.
respects. Yeah.
I couldn't hold back what I don't want to say they were asking me to hold back, but oh, you need to check with us first before you criticize us. I don't treat anybody else in the space like that at all.
They've
You're
critiqued
just
me tons. I consider us friends. They don't check with me before they critique me.
well, right. So actually, rather than kind of play loose with it, I'd borderline like to get into the evidence, I guess, the
Let's
things
go.
that are actually tangible.
Let's
That
get
way,
to it.
I'm not giving you vibes instead of actual content that we can all agree and disagree with as a community. Real quick, so I'm going to share screen. I'm going to pull up this screen. I'm going to turn on my audio and share it. Add to stage. All right, so this is a clip. Pisco is aggressive, abrasive.
Yeah.
He is pissing off Sitch and Adam and other moderate right-wing people, including Rob Noah, and definitely on occasion me as well. He has a talent. I've said this to him multiple times. He has a talent similar to my wife to get under my skin and piss me off. So, him and my wife are very well matched in that regard.
I like Pisco, but I agree with that assessment. I think he's much more interested in being right than building bridges with people, which is why he's a lawyer and I'm a political operative, right? We had two different skills.
Well, and so Pisco got this clip, which he objected to. Just to read his little forward to it, I'm not saying this framing is correct. I'm just saying this is Pisco's framing. According to Adam from the Sitch and Adam show, unlike months ago where Trump's coup, if successful, would be grounds for civil war, now Trump's attempt is actually an affirmative reason to vote for Trump because he'll fight harder. Sitch is in disbelief. I don't think that framing is necessarily accurate, but I still want to watch the clip, kind of do the breakdown and pause intermittently because I do have several objections here.
Take all the time you need.
All right, let's do it.
It's like a policy decision. I'm going to look at the policies. I'm going to, figure out what policies I like best.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
Going to?
I'm writing this down.
I'm not going to vote, so it doesn't matter. As I said,
you're not going to vote. Well, you said you would. I noticed last time you said you would say if it was you would vote Trump, who you would vote for, Trump or over Biden or Biden over Trump, but you never said. It was funny.
Well, I said so. My position, my problem with Trump has nothing to do with policy. My problem with Trump is that I will never vote for him because he literally tried to get the vice president to just throw out 80 million people's votes and declare himself president.
Right.
I can never vote for someone unless the person he's running against is like a pedophile space alien that eats people, like or something to that effect. Like I can never vote for Trump because of that. That's
okay. So what I hear from this, and I've been accused of straw manning Adam friended multiple times in reference to this clip, is that Adam is undecided. This was back when Biden was still in the race. In that he felt like Biden was such a weak candidate that he needed to evaluate based off of policy. Now, people got frustrated with me in our conversation and our blow up between Adam and I because I laughed when he reasserted this, that he was going to evaluate Trump based off of policy. Because to me, what I've noticed with Trump is that he doesn't have consistent policy. He blows with the wind. At 10 a.m., he has one policy, and then at noon, he has a different one. And that's because a couple of people who he's friends with tweeted at him or DM'd him or emailed him or whatever, and then he just changes his mind. And if you look at his presidency as well, it might lean more isolationist. It might lean more towards border security, but there isn't like a intentional and thoughtful effort to achieve a goal.
Yeah. No, I think that's really well said. I mean, it's not like this is just vibes. Like you can read Bob Woodward's book, you can read any number of stuff. Like this is a well-documented phenomena. I think it was Bob Woodward's book. No, it may have been. Well, it was one of them that came out. It was basically talking about how if they wanted a decision made, a lot of people that were in the White House when Trump was president figured out that doing it at the end of the day, so it was the very last decision, would stop people from coming in and changing his mind. And they also set up a system where they would go, like Jared Kushner, if I'm remembering this correctly, it was people like Jared Kushner, they would go and make sure to be in every single meeting because they knew that someone would be able to change Trump's mind.
Yeah, just yank on his ear, and he wants people to like him, so he'll be able to do that. And so right here, I'm actually going to go to a different clip that I feel like backs this up. And this is one of my frustrations. I know I have people who support Trump in my chat. I'm not trying to piss you off. I'm just telling you why I think what I think. Okay. And this is another clip from Bill Barr, who, correct me if I'm wrong, was the attorney general, one of the highest up, people in the Trump administration, likely had face-to-face conversations with Trump numerous times about policy and justice and Hunter Biden and investigations and what the FBI was doing and all that kind of crap. This is what he has to say about Trump on policy, which I think backs up my assertion.
Is he fit to be president of the United States? Is Donald Trump fit to be president?
This is the way I'll answer that, Geraldo, which is if you believe in his policies, he's what he's advertising is his policies. He's the last person who could actually execute them and achieve them. He does not have the discipline. He does not have the ability for strategic thinking and linear thinking or setting priorities or how to get things done in the system. It is a horror show when he's left to his own devices. And so you may want his policies, but Trump will not deliver Trump policies. He will deliver chaos and, if anything, lead to a backlash that will set his policies much further back than they otherwise would be.
It's pretty brutal.
Well, and think about that because so for instance, like I want strong vetting, and this is my Islamophobia and Hispanophobia, okay? But I want strong vetting for people who come from the Middle East and North Africa who come into the United States.
That's not Islamophobia, that's national security.
Well, the Muslim ban was a disaster because it was a blanket policy that punished normie citizens, left them in the lurch when they were traveling, didn't have any kind of minutia after going after Islamists or jihadists or anything like that. And it was rolled back almost immediately within a few months because it was so inhumane and poorly thought out that they couldn't keep it going. When it comes to the border, people were so against Trump's rhetoric that they ran away from him on border security. And now, several years later, after the border crisis has either been the same or worsened, we now have Democrats trying to pass bipartisan legislation to actually secure the border. So now, this is where I'm taking this. I don't know Bill Barr's autobiography, but I'm assuming, like most people from DC, he's a technocrat with 20 or 30 years worth of experience who got hired into the Trump administration because of that experience. That's right. He's saying
he fired what's his name? The Southern guy, right? Remember? And was it Lindsey Graham or was it somebody else? It's the come on, I can see his face. Somebody in chat is going to know him. Against him. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Jeff Sessions?
Jeff Sessions. That's it.
Okay.
Jeff Sessions wouldn't go the way that he wanted him to, so we kicked him out, which is, again, rule of law stuff. Very disturbing from my point of view.
But that's my point because I think that Adam gets a little bit more critical of Sitch as the clip goes on. But for me, this is evidence that I wouldn't trust, I wouldn't trust Trump to execute Trump policies, even if you like Trump policies.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. There's just this chat message that's wild. The other Bush says, why do you need strong vetting for people from the Middle East and North Africa when the biggest terrorist attack, 9/11, was done by a guy from Texas?
Oh.
Nice. We're going strong schizophrenia. I'm assuming that's a Bush reference. So
It's
that's what I'm
gotta
assuming.
be.
All right. So anyways, let's
Keep
that
the bushes out of when you see
that was
in
funny,
there.
but I can't attack that level of schizophrenia right now. Let's continue with the Sitch and Adam clip.
Such a I'm a very big guy about procedure and maintaining the system and the legality of that system and doing things the right way. And that's such a like Donald Trump taking a big steaming pile of shit on like the American democracy, the American constitutional republic, in such a way that I find just so vehemently offensive that I could never vote for him after that.
Well, but you are talking about a character issue.
Yeah.
You're not really
That's what I'm saying. It has nothing to do with
about-
policy. Yeah, it's a complete character issue.
Well, this is the thing. This is the argument that most people make, and this is the argument that really bugs the fuck out of me. Like they're basically saying, okay, Donald Trump is a traitor, and you can't vote for a traitor. And that's the kind of psychological manipulation that makes me think, what the fuck? Maybe I can vote for a traitor, you fucker.
So right. So I hear this clip. And let's break down Sitch, because so far I'm not objecting to Sitch. Sitch and I are actually pretty aligned on here.
Yeah,
so Sitch is saying that he probably can't bring himself to vote. He can't bring himself to vote for Biden after. I think this was after the debate, but before he dropped out. Then Adam says, but you never say what you're going to do. And Sitch says the only way, I saw that you were on your phone, so you might have been texting somebody, but Sitch says the only way that I can vote for Trump is if the Democratic candidate is literally like a child-eating cannibal pedophile monster. Besides that, I can't vote for Trump. And since we're not in that situation, at least Kamala Harris's cannibalism has not come to light as of yet. He's going to remain undecided, right?
Yeah.
So Adam rebuts, well, that's a character issue versus policy, which bugs me because it's the kind of thing that drives me so crazy. It's the kind of mental manipulation that makes me want to say, screw you, I'll vote for the traitor. And one of the things that happened during our conversation is I accused him of reflexive contrarianism, which tell me that sentence doesn't sound like reflexive contrarianism.
It's 100%. That's all it is. It's like you overeducated a contrarian. That's his whole game. 100% agree.
Okay. Then the other thing too that bugs me about this is character versus policy. This argument has been presented to me on Twitter and Discord and a whole bunch of other places. And what it is like, oh, you just think Trump is a bad guy, therefore you're not analyzing policy at all. But for me, these are not discrete issues. Character is not separated from policy. Character tells you how somebody will execute policy.
That's right.
And so you can say like, oh, all politicians are nefarious megalomaniacs who want their time in the sun and they ultimately don't care about the American people. I feel like that's really cynical. But at the same time, like whether or not you will coup the government is a policy issue that stems from a character issue.
Yeah. No, I think that's exactly it. And, Connor, I'd love to know your opinion on this. But when I was a lot younger, sometimes when politicians would have scandals about like cheating on their wives, right? I would think, is that really an issue? Does that really matter? It's kind of their private business. And now actually that I've been married for a while, it's like, no, that's a character flaw. And that has a direct correlation with like your actions and the integrity you're going to hold yourself to. So
can you be tight? Can you be disciplined? Can you listen to your brain and your command of yourself over your emotions and maybe some of your physical instincts? So I think that I never took the is cheating on your wife a serious issue thing. I think it's a serious issue because it's a character flaw.
Yes.
And if you're willing to lie, and by the way, not everybody loves their partners as much as Brianna and I love our partners. But if you're willing to lie to the most important person in your life in order to have a temporary pleasurable escapade because you think that you are so cool that you deserve to do that without getting caught, then that just kind of speaks to the fact that you're not honest, you don't care about the people who are around you, and you're willing to sacrifice other people's comfort for your pleasure.
That's right. Or the rules don't apply to you. This is to just come back to a core thing. Like, I actually do think character matters when it comes to politicians, right? So I'm 100% there with you. And I think the drawing the line between the things that he says and does in private, and the way that Bill Barr and other journalists have said that he runs the White House, I think drawing a line between that and the policy that you would want, I think that's utterly reasonable. And look, if there was a Democratic candidate that held themselves to the same standards that Trump does, I wouldn't care if they were like, hardcore trans whatever, like you can get HRT, like you're going to get Starbucks or whatever. I wouldn't care if it was like the Planned Parenthood abortion van driving around Dedham, Massachusetts. Anyone can just walk outside, catch a ride, get an abortion. Like, I don't care, right? Like, character matters to me as a voter, and I think that should matter for other people. So
Jesus. I felt some Cotter energy coming back with me with the hyperbole. I felt it. I felt it. If I've stressed you out in the past, my apologies. Yeah, that's what's happening. So, all right. But I do want to thank so we're capped out at 80 right now, cross-platform, but we did scratch 100 for a moment. So I do appreciate everybody who's come out. Be sure to like the stream. That way other people know that we're live. Be sure to become a subscriber or a member on YouTube. Become a subscriber on Twitch. If you have some donos or some super chats, go ahead and give them over if you got a little bit of expendable income. If you don't, then don't worry about it. We're just happy you're here. Gingermus Prime for $5 says, I agree with Barr 100%. Doesn't it say a lot about Dems that he has said even after all that he would still vote for Trump over Biden? And then hi, Brianna.
Hello. Thank you for the super chat. It means a lot to me.
Well, and then Gingermus, my issue, and I do get that. So for instance, there's like things that have turned me off, like the assault weapons ban, or for instance, joking or non-joking, the abortion and vasectomy van. Now, I understand that the van was not technically a part of the DNC, that they had 25 appointments, that it wasn't abortions, that it was like they distributed 8 pills, so that would be like under the first trimester, excuse me, and that also like a healthy chunk of their appointments were vasectomies, which is hilarious to me more than it is heartbreaking. So for me, that's like not a huge deal once you see the details, but at the same time, the fact that like that was viewed as like, oh, it's our time to shine, let's roll out the abortion van, like that's insane.
Can I say something about this? So
please.
Women have group chats. That's probably not going to surprise anyone. And, I am in group chats with feminist women, with conservative women, with smart women overall, right? There is very much a sentiment among my friends that, they want the right to an abortion to be something of an option for, but many of them feel that they personally would not make that decision. And I've always felt like there is a kind of pro-choice activist that just takes pleasure in, I don't want to say the cruelty of it, but just like being completely irreverent and gross.
Yeah,
sacrilegious, like mean-spirited, like, it's like going and seeing a Saw movie, like Saw 2, where what's her name jumps into the swimming pool full of needles and gets them stuck in her eye and her body. There's sort of just the lights and the emotional horror of it, right?
It's funny that you use that reference, because I saw that movie, I don't know, 2 decades ago, decade and a half ago, or whenever it came out. I saw it in theaters, and that scene of diving into a pool of needles, that has stuck with me for the past decade and a half as
That's one of the most famous in all of Saw. Yeah,
like a physical cringe-inducing moment where it's like it's so painful that you can't, it's almost hard to emotionally or mentally process.
Sure.
But Christian Valeris brings up an interesting point from chat. He says voters should be more worried at Kamala's supposed advocacy for price controls. I don't want to get too much into the policy because I want to get into the debate. But just as an example of something where it's like, oh snap, I am a Republican. So the one of Kamala Harris's policy advocacy is 3 million new units of housing, and also $25,000 as a down payment towards first-time home buyers. Now, with me, 3 million new units, awesome. I think there's a lot of things that we need to do with urban design in order to completely fix the way that we live. But at least it's more units for more housing. So boom, you're handling the supply side. Good for you, right? But then with the demand side, demand is already sky high. Now you can say that demand is like, well, we're making sure that the demand is coming from the right place, which is first-time home buyers, people who are trying to build a family or a home or establish themselves or whatever. And I understand that part of it, but there needs to be a democratic acknowledgement that they understand basic economics, because whenever you have sky-high demand and you incentivize demand, it's like, guys, did you take Econ 101? Did you take microeconomics? Did you take macroeconomics? Like, it's like offensive to me.
Yeah, I'm really torn on this one, Connor, because I don't know when you bought your home. Actually, I don't know what your home is worth, but I try to just be open about this.
2014, it's worth about 450K right now. I bought it for 200.
You lucked out, man. So my house, when we bought it, it was about 670, I believe. And for us to get the payment down to where we could afford it, because frankly, I didn't have as much money back then when I was running for Congress. We were a one-income family. We had to put down, like, I think it was $125,000, right? Woo! That was a lot of money. That was extremely difficult for us to do. And, we're very fortunate that we were able to do that. But that is to say, the thing that stopped me from owning a house for a really long time was that down payment, right? That's non-trivial. And I think that stops a lot of people. At the same time, I really agree with what you're saying. I don't know if people don't know this or what, but if you want to go buy a home in Boston, this is what happens. You have to get pre-approved, and you go to them and you see if they're going to take your offer. And then very often you have to go with $30,000, $40,000 of cash on top of market to just hand to them, because they've got like 20 other offers. So they're going to take it from the one that can give them that money.
That's obviously a very high demand market.
Yeah.
And so the only reason why I was able to get a house was because of the, not the GI Bill, but the VA. So I had a VA secured loan. So I was able to get easier financing, more stable financing, less down payment, et cetera, et cetera. And so I have no problems, but I think that the stereotype or the worry from moderates and right wingers in this country, like, let's say that they hate Trump and they don't want to vote for Trump and they're considering Democrat. The concern is that there are a lot of progressives. There are a lot of leftists who are very vocal on social media, very vocal a whole bunch of other places. And so the concern when you hear, diversity, equity, inclusion, or giga progressive language coming out of Kamala Harris, the concern is that she's a secret communist, right? That's the concern. And so if you want to assuage their red scare, then what you would say is, hey, there's a lot of predatory people who are sucking up housing in the market, like BlackRock, like all these different investment firms, like Airbnbs, and they've choked out the middle class from being able to own a home. And as a result, the American dream is dying. And so we need to revivify that American dream by making sure that the people who are buying homes are working class and middle class families who are going to raise the next generation. And boom, you're appealing to Republican family values. You're acknowledging economic concerns. You're quieting some of the criticisms that you're a secret communist. But I think that takes a certain level of nuance and intelligence, and also trying to appeal to people outside of your tribe.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. And the details of how you get there, that's very complicated. I just want to come back and just really hammer this. If you're talking about increasing the housing supply, that is a policy that makes sense to me. I didn't appreciate this until I lived in Boston, just how much zoning regulations make it difficult to build, but it is. And, I'm 100% on board with that. The luxury housing of today is going to be the cheap housing of tomorrow. We have a supply problem with housing. So let's build, 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 build. That is good policy. I don't know how you feel, Connor, but I am extremely mixed on, just handing people $25,000 of tax money if it's in a non-targeted way. It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't see how
Well,
it doesn't just make the prices go up for everyone.
well, and I do want to get back to the drama just because I'm sure that's what a healthy chunk of people want to hear us address. However, I agree with you. And not only that, we should talk about that later because I don't think that we should just be throwing up. This is a problem in Central Florida. There's so much development of single family homes and apartment complexes that our infrastructure, our water infrastructure, and our roadway infrastructure is not designed for, that our cities are becoming nightmares to drive into. And there's concerns about the water table. And it's like, we need a more intelligent and intentional way to design our cities. So we're not all reliant on cars that just pile up on the highway and we're not going to, drink ourselves into aquifer collapses.
Yeah.
But let's
get back to the
this.
drama.
So Adam can't criticize me for straw manning him about housing.
Well, I never said you can't vote. You can do whatever you want. I'm just saying I'm never going to vote for someone who's done that action. I find it personally reprehensible and
Right.
traitorous. Yeah.
Well, I mean, but you're making a decision completely differently from me.
Yes.
I'm making a decision based on what I think the outcome is going to be. And you're making a decision based on like rewarding someone or not rewarding someone for some kind of personality trait.
Obviously,
like this personality, the trait that you're talking about could actually be good for America. Like I said,
if I had a crystal ball and I could see the future, okay, and I can see that in the future that Trump being president is going to have substantially better outcomes for America than Kamala or anyone or Gretchen or Newsom or something, right? Then I'd say, okay, then I would support Trump, right? But we don't know what the future will be. So we just have to base it on what information we do know.
That's right.
You know, is Donald Trump, I think, is an immoral person who's done many actions to that effect and doesn't seem to really give a shit about, I don't think, in my opinion, really gives a shit about America really at all.
Okay, and Sitch, by the way, was sounding like a Republican in some of these comments because he was like, I care about process, I care about due process, I care about maintaining the republic, I care about the institutions, et cetera, et cetera. And so Sitch concedes, as I do as well, that if we could look into a crystal ball of consequences and see that somehow or another a Trump presidency would result in all these boons for America, then we would plug our nose and we would pull the switch. But character has policy effects, and it seems like Adam has discreetly separated character and policy.
Yep. No, I think that's exactly it. And Adam, if you're watching this, I don't want drama with you, but I sense from him sometimes the same thing I do with Hillary Clinton, where at any given moment, if Hillary Clinton is talking, I'm not entirely convinced that she believes what she's saying. Right. I think she's someone that's been in a game for so long that she's truly lost the ability to differentiate between reaching for the right answer in any given moment and reaching for the right answer. And I think in that same way, like your comment about him being reflexively contrarian and always ending up with this conclusion that the right wing are the ones to go with, I think this is a really big logical flaw. Let me give you a really concrete example. So I was on his show and he starts blah, blah, blah about debanking. And I'm like, my goodness, to hear Adam talk about this, there must be this huge swath of conservatives being debanked. And I'm there on the show and I start fact checking it. And it just basically, as best as I can tell from a Google search while I'm talking to him, is not a problem. Right. But it's that contrarian need where he's got to reach to a problem that the liberals are doing. And it doesn't even matter if there's evidence for it, in my view.
Well, and because I have a reflexive desire to defend people that I feel like I'm tribally aligned with as well, I would happily research that, and maybe another time we will. I don't think that it's as much of a problem in the United States because we have like a variety of financial institutions that give you a
Sure.
variety of options. However, I do know that a healthy chunk of firearms businesses are treated poorly by services like PayPal,
Yes.
but there's alternatives. And then also, I know that up in Canada, part of the problem with the trucking stuff was that if you were donating to the trucker funds, then you were getting debanked.
Yes.
Now, the
Yes.
issue, so I take issue with that because while you can argue that the truckers were committing crimes, they were blocking highways, they were blocking highways into Canada from the United States, they were disrupting commerce, they were costing people millions if not billions of dollars, and the cops had the right to go in there, arrest people, take them to jail or prison, and then release them on bond, right? But what happened was, at least as far as I understand it, which I would be happy to be corrected on, was that Trudeau said, you are financially contributing to a criminal organization.
Yeah.
Therefore, if you contribute, your banking can be frozen. And some Canadians who weren't participating in the protests but donated, they got their accounts frozen. My objection to that is, are we going to do the same thing for BLM? And the answer is obviously not.
Yeah.
Right?
I hear what you're saying, but if you're funding terrorists, like those banking laws have been remarkably effective. And if you're funding something actively engaged in domestic terrorism, I do think they have I don't have a problem with jurisprudence being used to shut that down. If these trucking protests have been done legally, I don't think anyone would object to that. But just to be really clear,
legal isn't disruptive. Legal
Sure.
isn't disruptive. That's like the leftist point is that if you're doing it legally, nobody cares because you're not disruptive. You're on the side with a sign. Whereas if you're blocking highway, pissing people off, people are talking about you on social media. Yeah, sure, they hate you, so you might be doing more damage to your cause than you are helping it. But at the same time, you're at least bringing people's attention to the fact that this is a problem that you care enough about in order to put your life on the line. And just as an example, I'm taking what you said. As an example, most of BLM, I think that most people at BLM, even right-wing critics or whatever, would say that most people probably weren't engaged in arson or murder or looting. But
Sure.
there was an active criminal component of the protests that involved arson, theft, looting, etc. So do you start, punishing the protesters and punishing the people donating to the protesters or the bail funds? And my answer is obviously no. The speech is more important than the desire to punish.
The speech is important, and this may get me in some trouble for saying Connor, but Nellie Bowles, her book, The Morning After the Revolution. This is Barry Weiss's partner. Like, she was writing about some of the fraud that Black Lives Matter was committing, as far as just unaudited, like 501c4 stuff. I'm telling you, as someone that does this for a living, the stuff she was writing that Black Lives Matter was doing blew my mind. Like, it blew my mind that people weren't, that a compliance person would sign off on the stuff that she was talking about. So I think in my case, the answer is, look, I want to be really clear. I have not read super deeply into the Canadian trucker thing, so I don't feel like I can comment on that. But I did see enough Black Lives Matter stuff, and I've been on record. I regret that I did not speak up. Violence of that sort is wrong. It's wrong to set buildings on fire. It's wrong to set police departments on fire. That stuff is just wrong. And I shouldn't have looked the other way, and I should have criticized my own side for that. What I want is the law applied to that as well. I think it doesn't make sense to me. Let's not have a law. I do want to have a mechanism to go after domestic terrorists.
Any right winger of good faith would say, as long as you're consistent. I think that's what most people would say.
Yeah.
Chris complains, actually says the strongest argument from Adam's perspective is what is the likelihood of whatever Kamala policy you find disagreeable passing versus the probability that Trump actually overthrows the government. I understand that, because what would probably happen is if Trump tried to do another January 6th, if you think that he's in trouble now, we would probably just throw the book at him. But for me, what he already did was enough to think that he's unqualified for the position of commander in chief.
I agree. I do. But just in case, I just want to put this out there. As I recall that conversation, which was like a year ago, the thing I was talking about with Adam was American policy, and as best as I can tell, there's not a big avalanche of conservatives being debanked in this country.
No.
Kanye was one example, but to me, like a private equity bank that takes millions of dollars for you to do your Adidas deal with, and deciding, hey, this is a little too much reputational risk, we would rather not work with you. I don't really think that's debanking in the same way. Or
It's not. And on top of that, like I have to imagine that there are plenty. Probably, I'm going to be make an anti-Semitic joke real quick. There are probably Jewish-owned banks that don't care about Kanye West's comments that would happily take his money and trade it. Okay, so there's plenty of options in the United States, and I also think that we have a culture surrounding free speech where we just don't have as big of a risk.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's do it.
I also sorry.
No, sorry.
No,
I want to keep the momentum flowing.
You and me, we could blab all day. Let's do it.
We're both yappers. It's true.
That is.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but I think that's like all candidates, especially at the presidential level. So
See, he's
I don't think
equivocating.
there's a lot, like all politicians and all presidents have to have a massive ego to run for office. But I think most of them have some level of respect for the American system. I don't think any other president would ever even have attempted to try to do the fake elector scheme, which is why no one ever even tried to do it or even thought to do that until Donald Trump.
yeah, no,
So
I mean, even that you could think of. You could spin that into a positive relatively easily. Like, okay, this guy's going to fight like hell to get whatever policies he's putting forward to get done. Right? You're like, holy shit, this guy wants it so fucking bad.
What the hell?
you could.
Yeah, doesn't that seem like pretty strong cope?
So I just want to repeat this back and make sure I understood this. Is he really arguing that because Trump did the January 6th stuff, that is evidence that he will fight like hell for the policies that he says he's going to put forward?
Yeah.
That's incredibly anti-democratic and anti-American. It's not funny. It's treasonous. Like that's a really disconcerting comment.
Yeah. This is something where, like, okay, so one of the things that Adam said during our confrontation was the fact that, you know, you're taking a 6-minute clip, it's out of context, blah, 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 blah. I don't think this is out of context. One of the things that people said was that Adam likes to have shower thoughts out loud on stream, right? And so I'm okay with people musing on different things or having a bad take when they're chilling with their friends. I have no problems with that.
Yeah.
But the problem was the phrase that triggered Sitch and Adam, or Adam in particular, was that I said they were audience captured.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've said that to them too.
Right. And so what I mean by audience captured is that if you are a liberal, which I think that Sitch has said before and Adam has said before, they care about individual rights. They care about liberal democracy, I think. They care about American values, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. To come up with the argument that Donald Trump shouldn't be analyzed on his ethics. He should be analyzed on his policies. And that because his ethics or morals or values or whatever can be flipped into a positive where he's so aggressive about January 6th that he would be aggressive about his policy agenda. To me, those thoughts would have never entered into a liberal's mind unless they were surrounded by Trump apologists. Yeah. That's the only way that thought would have entered your mind.
I unfortunately have to agree. It just really... It sounds so anti-democratic and crass, to be honest with you. And, you know, I think, Connor, if I were to be really honest, like, it's not that I don't understand audience capture. Like for me, I've taken a really strong stance on Israel post January 6th and October 7th, right? And, I'm surrounded with those voices a lot. And sometimes I do have to find myself like going, hold on, this atrocity happened. Don't just automatically run defense, really think about what they're saying. Like, I think if you are in the business of advocating for any idea, it is very easy to listen to the people that appreciate you and have that cloud your higher brain function. I think all of us have to do that. If you're claiming you don't, you're just lying. So it's not like I'm saying he's fighting a force that I don't have to fight myself. I'm
We
not
all
even
do.
saying he's a bad person. I actually like Adam as a human being. The other day, he called to check on me with my health stuff that I've been dealing with. I really appreciated that. So I just think like, I don't know if you saw the tweet from Keemstar yesterday talking to, Tipster and saying like, look, let me just get real with you. The reason you're having so much stress with people is because you're just wrong about everything. And you need to sit down, listen to some different opinions, and you need to hear them. And that's the only way you're going to get better. I think Adam, for whatever reason, has really lost the ability to hear feedback from people that even like him. Because I know I like him. I think you like him. And
Well, maybe
just,
not after this past week. I'll catch you up on that in a minute.
Sure. Okay. Well, I like him. Yeah.
No, well, so what happened was watching this clip. Okay, I've already made it clear that I don't think that those words can leave your brain. I don't think you can have those thoughts unless your chat is filled or your friends are filled with Trump apologists.
Yeah.
And I do mean apologists in the sense that like apologia is I think it's like a Greek word, and it does mean defense. So it doesn't mean saying sorry. It means coming up with like a line of argumentation in order to defend your perspective. And so I think that he's consuming that fairly frequently because of the space that he inhabits. And as a result, this came off like something to consider, a shower thought to consider. And I don't think that it can. Like not from somebody who's supposed to be rooted in, I care about liberty, I care about individual rights, I care about liberal democracy, I care about maintaining the republic. It just doesn't happen. So anyways, so I actually do have a clip related to audience capture that I want to play real quick. Because it was the one that they took most issue with, because they thought that the phrase audience capture meant intentionally dishonest. And I disagreed with that. I do not think that at all. I think there are plenty of people who have been audience captured who think that they're saying earnest and genuine things, but they're just playing to the financial and social advantages of their perspective. So this is a 1 minute long clip. It's Riley Grace Rochong and Dylan Burns.
Start as streamers who are like policy wonks, and eventually they're just all talking about interpersonal drama all the time.
It is crazy to see people come in like, I want to talk about this issue, and before you know it, they're just like focusing completely on drama. Like Chud Logic, I don't even know if he ever talks about politics anymore. And if he's a drama streamer, he's a drama streamer. It is what it is. He's got his market. I got my market.
Sure.
We're all gonna exist, kumbaya, whatever. But he went from like politics most of the time, drama, something like to complete transformation.
Sure.
And I've seen that to lesser extent happen with a lot of content creators who came in thinking they're going to do something totally different.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd be hosting a panel show, but I always kept the foreign policy focus, and I've gone even a little bit further with the foreign policy focus that I originally came in with. I always have tried to keep attachment to IRL politics. It's what I do. But yeah, no, the space, the incentives, the market incentives, the viewership incentives, and the financial and attention rewards, the social rewards that come from it are so enticing that it can completely knock you off of what your original streaming plan was.
So for me, this sounds like Dylan being rawly honest about the amount of time, money, attention, etc., that can knock you off of your intent when you first start a show or first start streaming or whatever. And so if I heard that, let's say that I said audience capture and they got pissed off, and then we come on the show and I say, hey, listen, that's not how I mean audience capture. I mean that you wouldn't be making these arguments as a liberal unless your audience like believe these things and you were exposed to these ideas, et cetera, and you didn't want to piss them off. That's basically what I said, which I understand you can object to. But this is what I mean, where Chud Logic, I love Chud Logic. I watch Chud Logic's content. However, I think that Chud Logic has been audience captured. He's not dishonest. He just saw that when he did drama, the viewership went up. Yeah. And when he did drama, the money went up. Yeah. And he just said, you know what? I'm going to follow the crowd because this is what people want. And I don't even hate him for it. It's not a problem. It's just a variable to consider.
I mean, I obviously agree with that. I think, but he's always kind of been honest about his nihilism, right? And I mean, he's not, he's frankly not a very happy person. I think that's very obvious. But you
Which
know,
one?
It's just Chud. I think it's
I disagree. I think Chud is quite.
I think
it might not be the kind. It might not be the kind of happiness. Well, so for instance, I've seen him have to go to bat with his chat now, though, because some of them, this actually happened the other day. It was during a stream that I watched. And unfortunately, I'm one of the contributors who says the dumbest, silliest, rudest joke as soon as it pops into my head, because that's the kind of space it is. But Stylo, who's a Queeman fan, Queeman orbiter, I don't know how to describe it. But he's a pretty like rude and abrasive guy as well. And he was saying that he was getting sick of the racist jokes that always popped up because if they were funny, he wouldn't care. But because of the way the space is cultivated, it's always the most obvious, rude, and abrasive and low IQ stuff that just bubbles to the top.
Yep. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Sorry, this sounds like it's stressing you out.
No, I'm just agreeing with you. Connor, maybe this is, I don't want to get personal, but for me, it's like, as someone who went to rehab and had to work so hard to get clean, and it was 3 months of live at the hospital, go through withdrawals. They literally, like, you lived in a hospital room, like they bought an apartment complex. You're living there with other addicts, and the group therapy, like you would get to the hospital at 8 o'clock in the morning until 5. Your job was going into groups and having you tell your story to other addicts, and they call you on your BS, right? Like you can't lie to another addict about why you're addicted to drugs. They will like call you on your stuff. And for me, I really had to understand, for me to get clean and to have a functional life, that integrity and honesty and being truthful about what my intentions were was really important. That doesn't mean I get it right all the time. It doesn't mean I'm better than anyone else. It just means that like you have to do in public what you do in private. And I think you know me well enough to know that's who I am, right? So it's so psychologically difficult for me to understand people that kind of do this stuff performatively or in bad faith. It's just, I saw that taking me to the most self-destructive times of my entire life.
One of my favorite quotes that I always try to say as often as I possibly can is, it's from Mark Twain, and it's, I never lie. That way I don't have to remember anything.
That's right.
And that is like, that's one of my favorite things. So if somebody asked me a question, I got in trouble with this for not covering the Vosh drama. I got in trouble for this for not taking a massive shit on Actual Justice Warrior, which I should also catch you up on that drama. I've gotten a lot of shit for saying what's at the top of my brain, but I would so much rather get yelled at for what I feel is an articulation of my internal monologue and what I actually feel and what I actually think. I would so much rather get in trouble for that rather than make up something that I think is going to be palatable to the outside world and then getting caught in it being a lie. Like that, that's just my absolute preference.
No, I fully agree with you.
Yeah. So hold on. So we need to, we only have like 90 seconds left. So I want to get that done. So let's do it.
Make that argument. I would say that it's not about policy with him. It was about the desperation. We've talked about this, the desperation to be a 2-term president, because to be a 2-term president is like ultimate status. To be a 1-term president is kind of like loser.
Totally.
And so it's not really like, oh, I have some amazing like it's not like the FDR situation where you're like, well, FDR did a lot of fucking shady, weird shit, like for his policies that he won in the past. It's not even like that situation. It's like, oh, no, this was really just to cement his own status as a two-term president.
Yeah, but it's aligned with a lot of people's policy goals, and that's why. I mean, this is literally why
the policy
democracy
goals
works.
are second, right?
Well, I mean, obviously, Trump is going to worry about his legacy, and his legacy is going to be tied up into whatever policy goals he achieves.
Maybe, but I don't like if Trump is not a person who has a lot of he's not a person who's motivated by ideology. So he's not like, oh,
that's a plus.
Well, is it? Because then it's his ideology is just whoever he's surrounded himself with, whatever they represent.
Look, if the voters want something, and obviously they're electing a candidate to achieve whatever policy goal this is that they want. I mean, if Trump is going to fight 10 times harder for that policy goal, obviously, than Joe Biden. Like, Joe Biden was a wet fish on policy goals.
So that's the end of the clip. But that was very frustrating for me. And I guess I can give you... Do you have any comments before I kind of give you a summary of how this flowed?
I talk too much. Go ahead.
Okay. So what happened within the past week? I saw this clip. I asked Adam what his perspectives were. And... yeah. Okay. So sorry. Dickie Boy was figuring out some audio issues, and he's been a commenter and a chatter for a while. So I wanted to make sure he was doing good. But what kicked us off was Adam said this shit. I don't know. This was July 30th, 2024. So this is now 60 days ago. I've had objections to Adam's takes in the past and him being like a little bit sensitive or whatever, but this was only 60 days ago. It's not a long time. But I replied to him in the section. Hutch and Pisco and somebody else was giving him flack in the replies. I asked him to like follow up on his perspective, and he was very evasive. I was like, hey, it sounds like you're analyzing policy more than anything else. I think that's a little bit nonsensical. You mind expanding this for me? And he's like, nah, like I'm not going to. And I was like, okay, well, screw you. Like we're both, we're both peers in the political commentary space. And so as a result, I feel like you should be willing to share this with me. And I didn't say that at the time. I just bit my tongue and moved on because, let's face it, I have bigger things to do than get into a Twitter reply guy fight. So fast forward.
Do you though?
Yes, I work 40 hours a week and have a family.
Fair enough.
Start a small business. Yes. The 8, and by the way,
just saying you like to argue. That's all.
True. That's true. But I like to argue in person more than I like to argue in Twitter. Okay. So
yes.
So what ends up happening is I let sleeping dogs lie. Fast forward to last week. Well, what happens is, so I help out with the hippy dippy recruitment. I get Sean, also known as Actual Justice Warrior, onto the program. Destiny and him have a huge fight over whether or not Trump will end democracy or if democracy's on the ballot. I was partially responsible for a misunderstanding of the prompt. And then Destiny and I hash it out. And during that, I just mentioned the fact that I think Sitch and Adam are audience captured. Yeah, I would say in the way that Dylan Burns just articulated audience capture, where there's incentive structures that lead you down paths that you normally wouldn't go or were not a part of your original vision. And so they get offended by that. They have me on the program. Well, for the first 20 minutes, I believe, I'm asking Adam for his political position. He refuses to give it to me and instead wants to attack me on straw manning him. And I'm like, you don't know whether or not I'm straw manning you. These are my earnest positions that I feel like I can back. Sure. And not only that, it's based off of this clip. And they're like, well, it's only a 5-minute clip. It's taken out of context, et cetera, et cetera. And so finally, after 35 minutes of pulling teeth, finally we get his position, and his position is still this. He says, I'm Kamala curious right now. Kamala said some interesting things that I'm considering. However, I'm still in the uncommitted phase, and I'm evaluating both presidents based off of policy. And I'm like, that's what you said 60 days ago, you dumbass. So how can I be straw manning you if literally you just said what I was criticizing you for? And then what ended up happening was, I feel like, now this could be a misremembering of the scenario, but I feel like then they were trying to criticize me for having the argument that I would have liked to have had 60 days ago, which is Trump doesn't have consistent policy. Trump changes with the wind. He's a populist, meaning that whoever he talks to last, we talked about this a little bit earlier in the program, whoever he talks to last, that's the perspective that he's rolling with. And so evaluating Trump and Kamala based off of a one-to-one policy analysis is dumb, because Trump not only is he not able to deliver on his policies, he doesn't know what his own policies are, except for secure the border, less Muslims, America should simultaneously be muscular, but not get involved in foreign conflicts. Yeah. That's Trump's policy.
No, I think that's 100% dead on. So let me ask you this, Connor. When you were talking to Adam, because I've had multiple appearances on the show that have been very conflictlicious, I think would be the word for it. And I've always found it a really... I like arguing with people when it's in good faith, or I can at least understand where they're coming from. I find with Adam, it feels so hard to get him to stake to a position and answer a question. Is that kind of your experience with him?
Well, the strongest counter argument that I've received so far is that Adam is kind of ethereal. And so he'll have shower thoughts on stream where he's considering all these different perspectives at once. But to me, as like a political commentator, that's almost like a sin. You know what I'm saying? Like
it's a cheat.
Yeah. You need to line up why you think what you think and how, or else what are you doing?
Here, do something. Like, Connor, let's argue, is gravity real? Okay, go with me. Go. Argue that gravity's real. Please go ahead.
Okay, it feels like you are constantly being pulled against the earth at all times.
Yeah, but are you really? Is that really your brain that's working that way and making you perceive that? Do you think so? I saw this article once.
Yes, and that's
Adam. That's Adam.
But that's there. And by the way, this isn't just Adam. This is a lot of creators. They take solipsism as a philosophy where the world outside of you kind of only exists because of the inputs in your brain, and therefore you can't really know what's real besides your interpretation of reality, and everybody else's reality is different, so you can't really understand it. At least that's my limited understanding of solipsism. But I swear to God, there are people who are like anti-realist solipsist nihilists where they feel like they can't know anything ever because there's always like an alternative explanation to what's going on. And for me, that's like fundamentally uninteresting. Like, stake a position and defend it.
That's right. It's also, look, God, I'm truly not trying to burn a bridge here, but it is so much easier to be a contrarian on stream than it is to research a topic and then defend it in a way that's persuasive to people. Again, coming back to Israel, I've read, if you look at my Audible reading history right now, I've read like 20 books on Palestine to go on these shows. I'm doing Israeli television next week on Tuesday. Like, it's a lot of work to understand this history and to then go and be able to argue it persuasively on stream. That's a shitload of work. And compare that to just like whatever you say, I'm going to argue against it. Like, these are two...
vibes. Vibes based politics, which, by the way, that might be why it's such a strong show, and that might be why Trump is such a strong candidate, because it's vibes based politics. But demented for fun, I'm going to infer, because a lot of you don't use pronouns when you're being insulting, so it's kind of or proper nouns when you're insulting people, so it's actually a little frustrating. Demented for fun says, "Oh God, he's flushed his brain away. This is more painful than watching Adam twist." So hold on. So if you're referring to me, I feel like everything I elucidated was fairly coherent and followed each other. So Demented, I would like to hear what you think I'm getting incorrect or is an inaccurate assessment. Then Lenny 2 says, to be clear, hear your talk of AJW and you're being in part responsible for the miscommunication. I think it's still just him gaslighting you. So here's the thing. I want to take this is something that just needs to happen going forward. If I am recruiting for a debate show, the exact prompt of the debate will be sent to every participant. That way we don't have this going forward. And that's a professional mistake on my end. Bud123 says Kamala has no policies, Connor. Her campaign website has zero policies or platform. She is essentially running off of vibes. Bud123.
That's fair.
You can say that's fair because she's not being specific enough. But what do you think her policies are going to be? Because my guess is going to be vaguely Democrat.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've said this on Twitter. I think the Republican critique of Chameleon Kamala actually is really, really true. She strikes me as a politician that reaches for the best answer in any given moment, which is why her, positions changed so much between being vice president and trying to get the nomination. But it's all like solid, normie, Democratic stuff. I agree with some of it. I don't agree with others, but I mean, she's Team Democrat at the end of the day.
Sure. Well, and that's my thing. It's like maybe she's a little bit more progressive than Biden, but she's not going to be a socialist, is my guess.
No,
like I don't think we're decommodifying basic human needs or workers owning the means of production. I don't think we're going to kill the bourgeoisie. I don't think that we're going for pure gun confiscation, although obviously I hate her gun policies. Anyways. But X Hunter says Connor was being very aggressive when he was offered an olive branch to bring the heat down. Connor completely crapped on it. Well, this is my advice to you. Next time someone is saying that you are lying, meaning that you are saying something that is untrue, you go ahead and try to bring the temperature down and we'll see how you do. Okay. So I did not lie the entire time. I asked them repeatedly what their position was, and I asked follow-up questions. And when they were being rude and abrasive, I was rude and abrasive. This is the political Twitch and YouTube political debate space. It's not necessarily all loves and hugs.
You're matching their energy.
Well, and by the way, like I'm not going to be well, this is getting a little rude, but I'm just going to say it anyways. I'm not going to be condescended to by a fucking, excuse my French, a 40-year-old cartoonist from Los Angeles. Okay, no offense, but like I have a 4-year degree. I speak 2 languages. I served 4 years in the Marine Corps. I served 4 years in law enforcement. I study history as a hobby. Okay. I can articulate my perspectives and why I believe what I believe, and I can defend them. So if you're going to act like you're better than me for some reason, we're going to have an issue. So, I
think if someone can't get along with you, that's a red flag. Because, like, Connor, one of the things I really, truly respect about you is, again, you have so many friends across the space. Like, liberals like you, conservatives like you. Not everyone likes you, but generally speaking,
I've been pissing off more people recently.
Well, but you're a likable fella, and you are generally, your objective is to get along with people. I've seen you shitpost, but I've never seen you like start a fight that you didn't believe in just to like for lulz, right? Like you just there's a quality if you spend time around people that have served in the military that they just exude respect to other people, and things get spicy. They're going to handle it, but that's just kind of your vibe. So I think if someone is talking to you and they can't get along with you, to me, that's a real red flag. I don't know.
Well, and we also don't always have to get along either. You can be spicy. I've had spicy disagreements with Pisco. I've had spicy disagreements with Destiny. I've had spicy disagreements with, I could name another half a dozen to a dozen people, but at the end of the day, we chilled out and we ended up having the conversation.
How about Chud Logic? I remember when you had some conflict with Chud Logic, you went on there, you held your ground, you argued your opinion, you didn't disagree, you didn't agree with him, and y'all were pretty spicy. At the end of the day, y'all were still friends, right?
Well, and that's the thing is that might be more on my end than his end, but I genuinely do admire. So Chud Logic started, my relationship with him started as a semi-sensible lefty on the debate scene who was hiding behind a Mexican luchadora wrestler VTuber profile. That's how I knew Chud Logic 2 years ago, right? Maybe 3 years ago now. And then I got on a couple of panels with him, and then he became a drama YouTuber. And guess what? His drama streams are great. He literally talks condescendingly about random people for hours on end. And there's something about a British voice talking condescendingly about internet people that is very soothing to me. It's like a lullaby before I go to sleep. So I admire his content. That doesn't mean I'm not going to criticize him, but I admire his content, and I think he's a good dude overall.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do.
I don't share that opinion.
That's okay. Dickie Boy says, Adam was trying to say you were a liar because it was impossible for you to believe Adam was just a Trump supporter. But Dickie Boy, it's worse than you think. He's not a Trump supporter. He's uncommitted. He's still just evaluating the situation based off of policy. And by the way, that feels like cope to me, because if you have like espoused principles that you believe in, then allegedly the person that you're voting for should align with your principles. And by the way, here's the thing. If he said, yeah, Trump did a whole bunch of bad stuff, but I think that if you analyze his policies, he was still pushing for XYZ policy that I'm passionate about. And Kamala has said a bunch of giga progressive lefty things in the past that makes me think that she's a closet giga progressive DEI socialist. And as a result, most of our content is railing against that kind of stuff. Therefore, I can't vote for a person like that. I would be like, okay, I get it. But he doesn't set up the consistency, and he's unwilling to defend it in person.
This really, why did this upset you so much? I don't know.
Why did it upset me? Because I feel like I'm a fellow traveler with centrists, and then the centrists can't defend themselves. And I'm like, you need to be able to defend yourselves. And then they get pissy about it. And I say Sitch was perfectly fine during it.
Yeah, it's so funny because Sitch is more the Gamergate figure, and I like Sitch more, to be honest with you. I really actually identify with what you're saying there, Connor, because like I feel like I've tried so hard in good faith to be friends with them, and it's just, I don't know. It's like, it just feels like there's always conflict, and I don't know if it's the show or what.
It's okay for people to have conflict about their priorities and their principles, et cetera, et cetera. That's not a problem. And by the way, like, I'm not saying that you should change your perspective on the situation whatsoever. I'm just sharing with you what happened to me and my perspective on it.
Yeah.
So if Adam calls you and he's like, hey, listen, I think Connor's a loser, dirtbag, douchebag, and I don't want to talk to him ever again, but I like you. I think you're a cool person. I want to make sure that you're doing well, et cetera, et cetera. No bad blood. I don't care if you're friends with Adam. Be friends with Adam.
I don't care who you're like. If you're friends with Chud Logic, I don't. I don't care either. I'm just saying, like, I don't know. I feel,
it could be the narcissism of small differences as well.
If you have noticed me spending less time in the streaming space lately, I mean, part of it is because there's an election, right? And I got just money to go make, right? It's my job. But at the same time, it's just so consistently, it feels like they're really great people in the space. Like Kyla, I love Kyla. I love Pixie dearly. But it also feels like there's just so much incentive to drag this stuff up for drama and just attack people with it, that it's just, do you know what I mean? It's kind of exhausting to be here.
It is, but for me, I still have a drop of fun where I think the drama is still fun to some degree.
Fair enough.
But I do want to acknowledge Niz, because I think Niz actually left us a donation before he did so, because he's going to go check out the content that we're talking about. Niz for $10 says, going to go watch a stream of this incident. I'll watch it some other time. Be safe, you two. Also, good call. Never back down if someone accuses you of lying or being dishonest when you're genuine. Thank you, Niz. Thank you for the dono. Also, to the 70 people cross-platform who have been hanging out with us, 70 to 80 people cross-platform throughout the evening, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching the content. Be sure to like the stream. It genuinely does help. It's free, doesn't hurt you at all, helps us in the algorithm, et cetera, et cetera.
Give us some super chats. Give us some super chats.
And then if you want to become a YouTube member, please do so. Small monthly fee, no big deal, helps support the content. Same thing with Twitch subs. They are appreciated as well. And then if you do have a little bit of money burning a hole in your pocket, give us super chats. If you don't have any money, don't worry about it. Your presence is appreciated. And then, so James Hansen, I just have to acknowledge this, bro. It's been so long since the face reveal. I almost forgot the wrestler VTuber. Yeah, it's one of those things that, like, back in the day, you can't forget. James Hansen says at CounterFire, I think you guys swept past an inference from Adam's quote earlier when Sitch said Trump is unelectable for cooing the government. And Adam said, but that's character. I'm talking policy. I don't agree that we went past that, because I was saying that it felt like Adam was trying to draw a discrete barrier between character and policy. And I think Brianna and I both said that policy is going to be affected by character. So I don't think we necessarily went past it.
Wait, he accused you of taking Woo dollars at the end?
Of course. Everybody accuses me of taking Woo dollars.
I haven't worked for Progressive Victory since last year. This is just crazy.
I actually wanted to ask what month it was because I keep like vaguely alluding to the fact that you haven't worked for them for a while, but I don't remember what month it was. What was it? December? Was it January?
It was the end of December. Like,
well,
it's
there you
just
go.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. And then somebody said, X Hunter says, this is part of the problem. You can't just make these claims and haven't watched the content. So, Hunter, you have to say what claims are being strawmanned. You're saying that they're being strawmanned. We're not representing them. You need to watch the content, etc., etc. What are we getting wrong? Okay.
Yeah.
Because what I've said so far, this is my summary of his perspective. He's evaluating policy. He's Kamala curious. I think he makes weird apologia for Trump. That would not happen if he wasn't a creator, he would not be coming up with the lines of argumentation that he's coming up with now. I believe that he's audience captured. We watched a clip about Dylan Burns talking about audience capture and how it's not lying. It's just incentive structures forcing you to go different ways. And it can be conscious and it can be subconscious. So if you're going to say of saying centrist, dude, hold on. This is going to be, I'm not going to be mean. I'm just going to be a little bit frustrated. I don't care that Sitch and Adam don't call themselves centrists anymore. They can call themselves independents if they want. Their niche in the political space, as far as I understand it, is the exact same, which is basically, hey, we are people who are liberals. We come from a liberal perspective. However, the far left has lost its freaking mind, and we're going to spend a lot of time criticizing them. And the right wing does go crazy some of the time, but we have a healthy chunk of people in the right wing that we feel are incorrectly vilified. Okay? To me, you don't have to say that's like philosophically or politically centrist, but that's obviously the centrist niche in online politics. All right.
Awesome. Yeah.
Okay. So we actually got three donos while we were talking. So Curtis Moricki says, much respect to you and Brianna, Canadian $2. Thank you kindly. Bibio Life says, more money for the Woo Fund. Thank you kindly, Bibio Life. Christian Valeris for $10 says, it's been fun, but unfortunately I got a new job, which requires me to interview a military SME. I forget what that is.
What's an SME?
I forget.
Let us know before you go, Christian.
It's still streaming at 9. I'll be back. If not, have a good night. See you next time. Christian Valeris, thank you for dropping by. Always appreciated. So James Hansen says, sorry, Connor, I ended up sending up that long ideas, 2 messages and only meant for it means that you guys were right, but could go even further harsher. Treason is in character. It's undemocratic. True.
That's right.
Yeah. Jonah Boy says, and Adam's positions are not so profound that we need to watch an 11-hour stream to figure it out. I agree there. Chris complains, says, Connor, what are you getting wrong is saying they're catering their opinions to not offend the conservatives in their audience when they frequently go hard against them. Okay.
Do they? I've personally never heard that when I've gone on their show.
And then Christian Valeris says, subject matter expert. Thank you. That's SME is subject matter expert.
Gotta go.
Bud123 says,
okay, yeah.
Bud123 says, Connor, if you don't vote for Kamala, vote for a third-party candidate. Not voting at all is a waste of a vote. In addition to a third party gets 5% of the vote, they get funding for their next election.
No. Voting is not choosing between outcomes. It's not about.
Then use your Democratic backlog fundraising nepotism to get Kamala to shut up about an assault weapons ban. Do it. Call Ro Khanna. Say, Connor needs a meeting with Vice President Kamala Harris. They need to talk firearms policy. He has way better gun control than she does and can help her win the election. Do it.
You know what? I would trade tomorrow if I could say, look, Republicans will shut the hell up about abortion and we'll start talking about an assault weapons ban. Like, let's do the deal. Let's get it done.
Sick. Hunter says, then you're 100% wrong. They attack the right and left. They constantly attack the right on their policies, ideas, strategy. Okay.
I personally can't say I catch every stream. I can just say for the streams I've been on, it feels like a lot more attacking Democrats and a lot more defending the right. But who knows? Like, if you look at my Twitter, I'm pretty pissed off at progressives right now too. So a lot of mine is talking about that too.
Yeah, but your politics still line up with them, and here's the things that we agree with. Yeah. So So these ones we're actually not going to watch just because I'm going to skip them. I'm going to summarize them for you.
No, let's watch some of them. Okay.
You want to watch
What do you wanna
these?
do? No, I don't know. I'm enjoying all the drama.
Okay, well, these are additional criticisms of Trump that I feel like should be seen by Trump simps, because I feel like these are additionally disqualifying. So screw it. We're already here anyways. Might as well get it going. 1 minute.
I hear from a lot of Republicans who defend Trump saying, well, that's a hypothetical and that's ridiculous. But Alyssa Farah Griffin, who was Trump's communications director, posted yesterday and said that you were present at a moment when Trump suggested executing the person who leaked information that he went to the White House bunker when those George Floyd protests were happening outside the White House. Do you remember that?
I remember him being very mad about that. I actually don't remember him saying executing, but I wouldn't dispute it. I mean, it doesn't sound. The president would lose his temper and say things like that. I doubt he would have actually carried it out. I don't.
But he would say that on other occasions. You said
The
he would lose his
president,
temper.
the president had I think people sometimes took him too literally, and he would say things like similar to that in occasions to blow off steam, but I wouldn't take him literally every time he did it.
Why not?
Because at the end of the day, it wouldn't be carried out, and you could talk sense.
But just because it's not carried out and you could talk sense into him, doesn't that still mean that the threat is there?
No.
Okay, so for me, this isn't necessarily disqualifying, but it's still funny to me because it speaks to the character of the candidate that I don't want in office, right? So, for instance, Hillary Clinton, as an example, she laughed about Muammar Gaddafi getting killed. She also...
Based.
And she joked about drone striking Julian Assange while he was in the Ecuadorian embassy or something like that.
That's objectively funny. I'm sorry. I wouldn't complain.
Okay. And then also on Twitch and YouTube politics, obviously we get a little bit hyperbolic around here. And on Twitter, if I could tell a healthy chunk of people to Sudoku themselves, I would. If it was in terms of service, I would absolutely be typing. That would be my number one response. You would just be able to search the phrase, KYS under counter Connor, and it would just be like endless posts of me saying that. So I don't want to judge too harshly. However, I think when coupled with something like this, the next clip, it is kind of indicative of something that I feel is off. My dad can talk about politics and all the people that he would assassinate if allowed to do so legally. And I wouldn't care because he's not the commander in chief of the United States.
That's the difference, Connor, is you don't have the legal authority to call up a predator drone to go fire into someone's house. That makes that comment a little bit different.
Yeah, so Bibliolife asks, is seppuku a terms of service word? It's not. I don't think so. But I don't want to fly too close to the sun because we obviously have fun here, and we don't want to get too crazy. But the point is, here's where it's coupled with where I think that this is disqualifying in my eyes.
Finally, give a direct order to deploy paratroopers into the streets of Washington, D.C., and I'm thinking with weapons and bayonets. And this would be horrible.
What specifically was he suggesting that the U.S. military should do to these protesters?
He says, can't you just shoot them? Just shoot them in the legs or something. And he's suggesting that that's what we should do, that we should bring in the troops and shoot the protesters.
The commander-in-chief was suggesting that the U.S. military shoot protesters.
Yes, in the streets of our nation's capital. That's right. He's going to...
So this isn't some random guy. So we've had Bill Barr, his attorney general, say that if you want Trump's policies, then you shouldn't vote for Trump because he's so insane that he will be counterproductive and build momentum against his own policies.
Yeah.
Well, this is his former Secretary of Defense, Mark Esper, who after Bill Barr says, well, maybe Trump was joking. He was a little bit hyperbolic. He was pissed off. He was exaggerating. Mark Esper, who to my knowledge is an intelligent guy with probably like all these DC heads, has 20 years of experience in order to land the position that he's in. He's saying, no, Trump wasn't joking. He was thinking, let's deploy federal troops in DC to shoot protesters. And it's like, why is this acceptable at all?
Yeah, it
Like,
shouldn't even be discussed. This is, I completely
no,
agree.
but think about it from like a use of force perspective. You have local law enforcement, you have DC police, you have state police, probably from Virginia that you could call in. You have the National Guard. All of these forces are trained to do non-lethal and riot control and civic unrest. All of them are. And so instead, as a result of like, ignorance, he's jumping straight to sending in infantry onto the streets of the United States of America. And it's like, dude, all of these things, like, they have a tool that could be used. And so what I did is somebody actually replied to me with this. They were criticizing my perspective, but they shared something that I had in the back of my brain, but I didn't remember, was the Posse Comitatus Act, which is something which was passed in the wake of the Civil War that prohibits the federal government from deploying troops on United States soil without, like, unless there's certain circumstances. And it's basically like at the request of the governor and during an insurrection, I think. The insurrection.
I saw that episode 24. I'm familiar with this. I got all my best legal constitutional crises that could happen
from 24, which is funny because Hillary Clinton watched Homeland, which was
Homeland is the best show ever.
Yeah. So,
do you like Homeland?
I haven't watched Homeland, but it does have an actor that I like a lot. So, for me, the guy who converts to Islam.
Yeah. Well, he dies. I don't want to spoil it, but
but he's in
he's season 3. Damien, what's his name?
If I remember correctly, he's Dick Winters in Band of Brothers. So he's one of the main characters from the HBO series Band of Brothers. And then he's also in Billions, which is another TV series that I haven't watched.
Love it.
But I will watch clips of Billions because he's such a phenomenal actor.
Okay, hold on. I am taking the Yap privilege card right here. I just want to tell you how much I love Homeland.
Do it.
Okay. First of all, you've got Carrie Mathison, who I would put her in the top 3 women characters in television history that has ever been there. She's flawed. She has bipolar disorder. She makes all kinds of bad decisions. She's brilliant at what she does, but it is brilliant. And what I love about Carrie Mathison, I relate so much to this character on a fundamental level because she is someone that makes bad decisions, but she loves her goddamn country so much. And she goes through hell and she wrecks her personal life and she does painful stuff because it is the right thing to do from her point of view. It is so powerful, every single season of that show. Additionally, I don't think there's another show in history that has predicted the future of what politics were going to do more than Homeland. It predicted so much of our Middle Eastern conflict right before it happened. Seasons 6 and season 7 are basically about Gamergate and information warfare and what happens with the next step. It was predicting Trump. Season 8 is going back and looking at all the chaos when we withdrew from, basically when we got out of, the Middle East with Biden. It was absolutely amazing and just top to bottom, best show on television ever. I've seen every single season 20 times. Sorry.
No, that's great. I'm happy that you're passionate about it. I have a realism issue though whenever I watch TV series though. So for instance, I try to watch the new Jack Ryan series or whatever, and they just had
that's trash.
Well, and I got really frustrated because they had a suicide bomber cut into somebody's stomach to put explosives into it and then go into the base and blow stuff up. And I was like, they would just use a VBIED. Why are you even bothering with this whole dead body thing? Yeah. Anyways, but the point being that I need an element of realism. So I'm not saying I won't ever do it, but I would need some time to do it.
I think it's actually very realistic. Let me give you just I don't want to turn this into a Homeland show, but there's an episode. It's called 13. It's basically the embassy, the real life embassy attack that happened, right? Mm-hmm. There's an episode where that basically happens for Station, and Carrie is doing it. And she's behind a car, and there's a bunch of people that are trying to kill her, and Saul is there, and she's firing with the M16, trying to fire back on any other television show, she'd be killing people right and left. And she's not a trained person. She's missing everything. All she can do is just blindly fire this rifle she's not trained on, and hopefully they run away. And
Right.
it's like those little details, or like when you see people like trying to take on like a group of terrorists with AK-47s, and they've got like 2 pistols. It's
they get
very
their butts beat
realistic
in.
about how that goes down, right? So I would love for you to watch this and tell me if it's realistic or not. It certainly feels realistic to me.
Maybe what we'll do. So I think you know that I have more ideas than I do time. So one of the things that we'll do, I've always wanted to do the like a review because actually a lot of my content before I separated out the channels was reviews. I did a breakdown of Full Metal Jacket that got like 60,000 views. I did a breakdown of Fury that got like, I don't know, 30,000, 40,000 views. And this was not when I was like a big channel or anything. And so I think that doing what I do with the Warhammer channel, where we take the biggest clips and then break them down from a political or a military.
Connor, can we please do this?
angle.
I will download that episode of Homeland and pull up some clips and let you tell me. I will.
That would be
all the
fire
work for you
content.
and just show up on stream. Oh my god, I love the show. You have no idea. So
Well, then let's. I have some things that are cooking that are kind of going to determine what the next year of my life looks like. So you and I should talk. Maybe we need to get Frank to invest in a small business or something.
I love it.
But
I love it.
but there was a comment that I wanted to address. Hunter, before he left, because he did leave, he did say, agree to disagree. It's all good. Hunter, thank you. Even though you're criticizing us and you're obviously more of a Sitch and Adam fan, I do appreciate you being good faith in the comments and being aggressive while not being so rude that we got into a tit for tat. Well, QC John asked, didn't Trump say that about the rioters, not protesters? And I believe it was after rioters burnt down the White House guard shack and labeled Trump bunker boy. Okay, so I get what you're saying, where there is a difference between people marching down the road. They got their picket signs, they have their slogans writing, they're screaming, they're writing, whatever. You shouldn't be shooting protesters. Totally agreed there. With rioters, I agree that things can get out of hand once you start throwing Molotov cocktails, once you start hitting cops in the head with bricks, et cetera, then you need to escalate, right? But my point is that there is an entire security infrastructure that anybody with a lick of common sense and a sense of history should know about, which is like local law enforcement, state law enforcement, National Guard, then federal troops, right? And the reason why you don't march federal troops on your domestic lands is because those are the things that typically mean the republic is over. The reason why Posse Comitatus was passed, now it was because of Confederate resentment against federal troops stationed on Southern soil. So you can criticize it from that end. However, I think that if you have troops on every corner, you're effectively telling the country that you're living in an authoritarian society because you can't maintain the peace without rifles and bayonets. So that's why you use cops, because cops can keep the peace in an aggressive way, but they won't kill people or they won't kill as many people. And what I mean by that is tear gas, riot shields, batons, herding tactics, arrests, zip ties, courts. These are all infinitely preferable to having federal troops machine gunning citizens on the streets of the United States.
Okay, so I hear you on that. Let me just play devil's advocate with a little 24 trivia. So if I'm remembering correctly, this was season 5 of 24, and the reason the Posse Comitatus Act was brought up was there was a mini nuke that went off in Los Angeles, and they were concerned about like there being riots and destruction and people going out there. It was on such short notice that they did not have enough cops to keep something of that magnitude. They couldn't get the governor to do it in time. Said they wanted to unleash the National Guard preemptively and have the president order to do it to just take care of a situation short term. I think in a situation like that, at least on this TV show, that makes a lot of sense to me.
No, not only does it, but this is the system that's in place. So, for instance, the National Guard can be called up and federalized.
Sure.
And this paragraph, I would have to read on who can be deployed and for what. But the Insurrection Act gives the president the authority to deploy federal troops. And not only that, there's historical precedent for it. Federal troops have been deployed on United States soil 31 times. And I think the majority of them were in the late 19th and early 20th century. And it was for two things. It was for natural disasters and it was for union busting. I kid you not. So when unions were, occupying buildings and telling everyone to buzz off and all that kind of stuff, then federal troops were authorized by the Insurrection Act to go break up those incidents. And I don't have a problem with that. But the thing is, you have to follow the law, the procedure, and the escalation of force to minimize the damage to the citizenry, or else I feel like you're acting like an authoritarian dictator. So for me, again, that's like, if you jump to shooting people, you shouldn't be holding the office.
Yeah, I agree. Completely agree. That's utterly reasonable.
So we have options here, okay? So we are at 8:14. My wife is actually recovering from surgery. She had so she had some, not trying to overshare, but she had some benign tumors in her back. They took them out. Yeah, they were kind of serious. Well, they were in spots. They took them out, and she is not supposed to be lifting more than 15 pounds for the next 2 weeks.
Okay, this is what I'm going to do after the show. I'm going to send y'all a coupon for some DoorDash, and I want you to do that so she doesn't have to cook, and y'all can get pizza or something. I'm so sorry about that. Yeah.
I will use it. But the point is that we've been running for almost 2 hours, and I can hear her putting the boys to bed. So I kind of want to help her out. My older boy, so she's not supposed to lift 15 pounds or more than 15 pounds. My older boy is 30. So, kind of a problem there, right? But of course I didn't want to miss a lovely show once you got back from the DNC. So what I would say is Kamala Harris's speech is 38 minutes long. I've watched it. I'm assuming you watched it.
Yeah.
So how about, instead of us watching the entire thing and doing the breakdown, being here for another 90 minutes? I know you're a very busy person. You have an important engagement that you need to call back that I overheard earlier in the evening. So why don't we just give our vibes off of this? And what I would say, are you okay? First off, are you okay with that as a game?
Of course, Connor. Go take care of your wife. My God.
Okay. So vibes off of this. I felt like she did talk about abortion. She did talk about what is it? Protecting a woman's right to choose. She did talk about gun control and all that kind of stuff. But I felt like the speech otherwise was very patriotic.
Yes.
It was very pro-institution, pro-republic, pro-military in some instances, wanting the most lethal military on the planet. And it was also, I would say, pro-law enforcement. I would say that there was like a few sentences there where she was talking about like, these things have got, if I could be remembering correctly, but I felt like she said, yeah, we got these problems, but we also have these institutions that we need to protect and preserve and can't be abused by the federal government, et cetera, et cetera. So I actually felt like it was a pretty institutionalist, pro-republic speech. So what's your vibes off of it?
Pretty much exactly the same. I thought it was hopeful. I think the reason Democrats are going to win this election is we've got a hopeful message, and the opposition has a very fearful, angry message. So I thought she nailed that. Personally, I thought she threaded the needle reasonably decently with Israel and our commitment there. I think it was a little bit too much wagging the finger at Israel defending themselves. Oh, I understand she's trying to keep two constituencies together. I love, and my Republican friends may not love this, I love that Democrats are unashamedly the party of loving America. When I grew up, the Republicans were the party of Top Gun and Iron Eagle and Miami Vice and all the cool stuff. And now I love that we are shamelessly the ones that love our damn country. So I think it's smart politics, and I thought it was a good speech overall.
No, I agree. And I think my only anxiety that I'm sure many Republicans feel is that a lot of Republicans, I think that earnestly do love the country, even if they're Trump sycophants, even if they're MAGA, they earnestly believe that, like, rock, flag, and eagle, They actually like the American military. They do like a majority of American law enforcement. They do like the freedoms that we have. They do like the mixed economy capitalism that enables a lot of opportunity while maybe not always being the best vehicle for universal success. And so as a result, they feel quite protective of it. And so what would be a criticism is if this was cynical, right? If Democrats didn't actually love the country, they were just using the symbols to appeal to a broader base while always wanting to change everything. But I feel like that speech was so institutionalist, which I know a lot of the fringes are not going to like, that I felt like she was running straight for the center moderate disaffected Republican and centrist Democrats who might have been turned off by the farther left.
I do think, and I hear you on that, I do think that if you're a woman or a Black woman, or a gay person in politics, I do think there's just a little bit more suspicion of, like you really believing in the country and loving it that other groups don't have to deal with. So I thought it was really, really smart. I think a reasonable question for any commander in chief is, are they going to be able to use our military effectively? Right? Are they going to be able to execute our moral authority in a way through the world that is, frankly, are they going to be able to send people to die? Right? Are they going to use this power responsibly? And
that's one of the most important aspects of the future of the American identity, because I think that a lot of Americans, they are very cynical and nihilistic about the use of the military over the previous 2 decades. And conservatives, I think, disproportionately serve in the military. And so they feel like they were used. This is an okay assessment. They were used by Bush and Cheney and Rumsfeld to fight unpopular wars across the world that were counterproductive, cost a buttload of tax revenue, and quite a bit of American blood. And so as a result, if somebody is a war hawk, I think they get really skeptical about it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And so you're right that exercising American power on the world stage in a just way is really the only way that America can redeem itself.
I think it's a complete lie that our military can't do things today. I think we learned all the wrong lessons after 9/11 in Iraq. But I love the fact that she just flat out and said, like, our military has the capability of being lethal. I love that. And part of that, it's not that I love that from a gung-ho, yeehaw, let's go kill some people, kind of thing. I think every citizen out there needs to think long and hard about who we're voting for and what the foreign policy we're voting for and what we want to be doing through the world. Because, when we ask a soldier to serve, they're giving up their moral authority to the civilian chain of command. And that's an awesome responsibility in who we elect and the standards that they hold themselves to, which is why, coming back to that character issue, I think that's a big deal if Trump is joking or thinking about killing his political opponents. That shows a real callousness by which he wields that authority. And I think that tells you something you need to think about.
The Army motto, I think one of the Army mottos, I'm sure they have a billion of them, but one of them is "This we'll defend," right? And I think that when you're talking about military service members, a lot of them don't care. They care to some degree, obviously, about whether or not they live or whether or not they live or die. But what they really don't want is they don't want their lives to be squandered.
Yes,
that's what they don't.
Yes.
Want. So it's not the fighting, it's not the deploying, it's not the hardship, it's not the PTSD or the tinnitus or whatever. It's we don't want our efforts and our blood to be squandered, and that's a huge thing.
There's a friend of mine there's a friend of mine who moved into polling, and he served in Afghanistan. He wrote a op-ed in the Boston Globe, I think, about every day, and it was him talking about this was the headline: "Our service was squandered." And he talked about his friends had died over there and how Biden's withdrawal from Afghanistan reckless, even though I think it was forced in ways he didn't acknowledge, but just talking about how he felt like everything he did was for nothing.
Yeah.
And that was really hard.
It's a bitter pill but I would frankly love to talk to the veteran community about that, especially some of the people who spread that kind of black pill message. There's quite a few really excellent warriors who share that perspective, but I think that their view needs to be expanded, and they need to realize like whom and what they're serving is not like this neat, cute little nation on nation war of the early 20th century. We were never going to invade Afghanistan, win against the Taliban, install a Marshall Plan style government, and then have it be successful. While that might be the history of the early 20th century, there's a wide variety of historical, cultural, and logistical reasons for why that wasn't possible. And I know it's a bitter pill, but it's just one we have to swallow. I do want to address Bibliolife. He says, what the fudge is the coconut thing? Nothing to do with Coconut Island. Lucky for us, Coconut Island has not broken into the mainstream yet. I'm sure it will eventually. I think, if I remember correctly, it was a meme from Kamala Harris saying that, like, nobody is born alone. What do you think? You're a coconut. You fell out of a tree. I think that was the joke. Am I wrong on that?
Completely right.
Okay. So it's basically just saying like people are not an island, and it's a famous meme from the Kamala presidency because it was cutesy and weird and fun.
Yeah.
So so Josh the Junkie says 34 likes with 44 watching. Where are the 22% slackers at, baby? Josh the Junkie, I appreciate you motivating chat, but we are kind of wrapping up. So I do appreciate your enthusiasm. Bring it next time when we're back next week.
Yeah.
Do you have? I want to go help the wife because I still hear a little bit of crying in the other room, and I want to make sure that she's doing it.
Take care of business, Connor.
But do you have any final thoughts you want to share with chat before we dip out?
No. Thanks for coming in, chat. I feel like we've done this show enough. I can gain to know all of you, and I genuinely appreciate you showing up.
Okay, beautiful. Well, I want to thank the 50 to 70 people. Now we're down to 50 because we're wrapping up, but I want to thank probably average 70, peaking out at 95 people who showed up throughout the night. I want to thank our 5 donors tonight. Thank you for donating your money. If you don't have money, thank you for your time, your attention. Thank you for liking the stream. If you're not a YouTube member, become a YouTube member. If you're not a Twitch subscriber, become a Twitch subscriber. Thank you for being part of the community and hanging out. And we're actually going to sign off. My wife is staring at me with a tiny baby right now, so we're going to run.
All right. Bye, Connor.
Thanks, Brianna. Bye, chat. Bye, Brianna.